What did you think was going to happen? The BLM movement is built on a lie. They claim that innocent blacks are being murdered by cops at alarming rates, which is absolutely not true. Is it not reasonable to assume that people who believe that lie might try to kill innocent cops? In case you haven't heard, someone tried to kill 2 cops in an ambush attack in Compton, California. A man walked straight up to the side of the cop car and shot both officers in the head. Then it was reported that protesters were at the hospital trying to block the ambulances from getting the officers into the emergency room. That's some sick stuff. And this environment has been made possible by the political left. It's nice to see Democrat politicians and black activist groups denounce this attack. But the truth is, they've laid the groundwork for this to happen. They've been spreading lies about law enforcement for years. Very few innocent black people are killed by the cops. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, around 53 million people have interactions with the police every year. Others estimate the number of interactions are in the hundreds of millions, but let's go with the most conservative number out there. So that's about 16% of the population that have interactions with the police every year. And of those 53 million people who have interactions with the police, less than 0.002% were killed. That's 1 out of every 53,000 people who had an interaction with the police. That's how rare it is. But if we're talking about unarmed people killed by the police, it's more like 1 out of every million people who had an interaction with the police. That's extremely rare. And there's something you can do to not become a statistic. You could not be a criminal, or you could comply with a cop's commands in an interaction, or you could not date a drug dealer. Say her name has become a new popular thing for leftist activists to shout at the police. The reason they say that is because a lady named Breonna Taylor was killed in a police raid in Louisville, Kentucky. She was dating a drug dealer, and the cops showed up at her house with a warrant, knocked on the door, announced who they were, then rammed the door down and got met with gunfire. The cops returned fire, and Miss Taylor was killed. But according to people like Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris, Taylor was murdered by the cops. The officers who murdered Breonna Taylor nearly 3 months ago still have not been charged. We can't forget about black women in our quest for justice. Those are the kind of lies that are creating this environment. It's such a dangerous lie, too, and we saw why on Saturday in Compton, California. Right now, our society is calling rapists and robbers heroes. Could you imagine being the victim of Jacob Blake? You turn on the TV and football players are wearing his name across their helmets? All because you called the cops on him for violating a restraining order you had to put on him because he raped you a few months ago? Then when the cops show up, he resists arrest and pulls a knife on the cops? Athletes should be wearing her name across their helmets. She's the real victim in this case. And to believe that this incident is evidence that cops are out there wanting to kill innocent black people is ridiculous. And for political leaders and high-profile athletes using cases like this one to foment political unrest is nothing short of criminal. It makes me sad that these 2 rookie officers are in the hospital with gunshot wounds to their heads because political groups and politicians think people freaking out in the streets are good for their agendas. My daughter's godfather is a police officer, and it scares us to death that he'll either be accused of being a racist cop for doing his job or ambushed by some thug who's been lied to about what's really going on in the streets. To put some more perspective on the numbers of people killed by the police, let's compare it to other causes of death. I pointed it out earlier, if you have an interaction with the police, you have a 1 in 53,000 chance of dying. More people will die from drowning, or giving birth, or a car crash, or a gallbladder disorder. And if we're talking about black people unjustifiably killed by the police, well, that number is comparable to the number of people killed by lightning strikes. The Washington Post database says in 2019, there were 13 unarmed black men killed by the police. And the average amount of people killed by a lightning strike is double that at 27. I'm sorry, but there is not an epidemic of black people being unjustifiably killed by the police. And those politicians and activist groups that are pushing this false narrative are not only making it more dangerous for our cops, they're making it more dangerous for the people they say they're trying to help. Their lies are actually putting all of our lives in more danger. And that's the simple truth. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to become a supporting member of Blue Collar Logic, Click on the link in the description and give what you can.